Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. I actually made this video already, but I didn't realize in the last video that I made on this topic, the main saw was actually soloed and only playing the part B. So the entire drop was that missing the main saw as part A. So I decided just to freaking redo the video just so you can hear the full sound of the drop and stuff like that. But nonetheless, welcome back to another tutorial. Today we'll be talking about how to layer your supersaws and make them sound more full. Also, before we get started, this is a remake of one of Loki's tracks that he made on his stream. So credit goes to him. I basically just kind of changed the sound design, but more or less everything else is his. And then also a big shout out to Nurko for showing me how to make this drop basically. This drop here, as I mentioned last time, is not exactly finished yet. We're missing like fills, crashes, and other metal elements and stuff like that, but the saw stack itself is more or less done. So I'll go ahead and audition this, I guess, without the ARP and then with the ARP. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. I guess I'll go over the sidechain real quickly. I'm not really going to go into too much depth on how I did the sidechain. If you do want to learn how to sidechain using LFO tool, feel free to check out one of my last videos on that. I guess I'll leave the link in the description below. But pretty much I have a LFO tool that's setting to a return channel. I'm basically just routing it to a trigger to every kick. But yeah, if you want to learn how to do that, feel free to check out that one video I have on how to sidechain using LFO tool. And then in terms of the processing, I don't really have too much. We have an OTT on the saw stack, 35%, some gain, just so we can make up for the compression, because the compression essentially just kind of takes the above and below frequencies or whatever I think it was called, and it kind of compresses it to the middle, so sometimes you lose some volume. So that's why we put up the volume up a little bit. We basically have some reverb, and then a glue compressor, and then same thing with the OTT and the glue compressor on the atmospheres, and the bass as well, OTT for the bass as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into each individual layer, and then kind of go over like the presets and stuff like that. So for the main saw, we have a Sylenth. This is what it sounds like. And basically we have, this is the layer that I had soloed last time. It was only soloed on part B. But yeah, this is our main saw. We have 2 saw waves. Basically the first one being 8 voices, and pretty much not too much on the detune, so almost a little bit, about halfway or so. And then if you basically if you have a nit, you probably would have to hit the retrigger too, turn that off, and also the polyphony at 16. And then for the next oscillator A2, we have another saw wave, 5 voices this time, a little bit more detune and some phase, just so they can have a bit of a difference in the way they sound. Otherwise it's gonna be like one chunk of sound basically. And then we have part B, which is basically 2 square waves. Same thing with the detune, 4 voices this time. And then this one's actually more of a half pulse rather than a pulse. And some phase again, and just a bit more detune, 3 voices, same idea, trying to kind of differentiate the 2 different oscillators basically. And then for processing, not really too much either. These are all off. We have an EQ cutting out everything below 100, a shelf to make room for the noise, and I think that's really it. Yep, that's it. Alright, on to saw number 2. This one's going to be the more detuned saw, so a bit more spread a little bit. And then this one is basically very similar idea, but again, just more detuned. So we have a saw wave here, 8 voices, definitely more on the detune, some phase on this one, and then for this one, same thing, detune, 8 voices. And I think that's really it for oscillator or part A. And then we have part B. This one's off. We're just using oscillator B1, and this one's also a saw wave, 8 voices, detune, phase, and then up an octave basically. And basically all these saws, they're just, I have 5 saws total, but they're all basically kind of accompanying each other and kind of like filling out what the other one's kind of missing basically. So playing saw 1 by itself, and then saw 2. And then processing for this one, not too much either. We have EQ8, same thing, cutting out everything below 100 and a shelf for the noise. All right, and then this is saw 3. This is what it sounds like. So this one's playing more notes, but I'll go over the notes in just a bit. But pretty much we have a serum, same, very similar idea. 2 saw waves basically, some 9 unison. This one has a bit less on the detune, a little bit of blend, and then this one has 11 unison and just a bit more detune. And then we have the effects, just some hyperdimension basically. And that's pretty much it for saw number 3 in terms of inside the serum. And then we have decapitator for this one for saturation. Same idea with the EQ, remove anything that's below 100, a shelf for the noise, compression or OTT basically, and wider just to kind of like, sterilize the saw. But I also definitely highly recommend S1 Imager from Waves. That's something I definitely want to look into getting rather than wider, but this one will just work just fine. And then just playing all 3 saws together. And then as for the notes, rather than playing 6 notes, I think it's playing 4. So yeah, this is basically saw 3, G, G, D, and G. And then compared to if we were to look at the main saw and the other saws, notes that it's playing. Yeah, this is the main saw's notes. And then also one thing I really want to mention too is that chord voicing really matters for your drops. So I'll kind of give you an example. So right here we have basically the same chord progression, but just in a very basic form, like the root position. And then we're just basically going to play it with the 3 saws and some white noise, just so you can get a basic idea of the differences between the basic chords versus the chords that we actually have. So yeah, you can basically see a huge difference. Obviously the drop is quite empty and stuff because not everything's in there, but nonetheless, chord voicing matters a lot, and the chords are basically the foundation of your track. So it's definitely important to get that voicing down. And if you want to learn how to kind of create these type of chords or create more emotional chords, I have a video on that as well. I'll leave the link in the description below as well for that. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to saw number 4. Again, all these saws are kind of accommodating each other in some way. These last 2 saws I have are basically unique saws to kind of make your drop a little bit different, compared to every other feature-based drop. You can also use Nexus. They have some really cool unique saws in there too, but for here I'm using Atmosphere because I don't have Nexus. But the first saw is actually, both of them I actually got from Illenium's Lonely track when he was doing his walkthrough. definitely recommend that too. That was a great walkthrough. But yeah. So the first one is a flaming super saw. Yeah, and this is what it sounds like. Have some decapitator just to kind of give it the nice high-end kind of sound. Really basic EQ. That's really it for the atmosphere, or the flaming super saw. And then the next one is the last super saw that we have is the radio tones melodies. Same thing, decapitator, EQ, and then playing all 5 together. Without them. So it's not really supposed to make like a huge difference, but it's more of something more like a subtle layer to kind of, again, make your saws more unique and kind of add to it, basically. And then the last layer in the saw stack is basically just some white noise. I basically just took a serum. I'll make it for you guys real quick. I basically just took serum and then just use one of the white noises there. You can also get a white noise from operator, for example, could work if you have that. But I probably just chose like bright white or something like that, or art pink, or yeah, probably bright white. I think I can't remember exactly. Or there's some really great ones on organics, and yeah. And I basically what I did was turn off the oscillator, and then I just basically froze it and flattened it so I can convert it to audio. And then basically for the EQ, you probably want to do around this range. Basically all together, I'll play without the noise and then with the noise. So this is basically everything without the noise. And then with the noise. So that noise is basically making up for that higher frequency area where we basically put all the shelves for the saws. All right, that's it really for the saw stack. And then next we have atmospheres. First we have a choir using atmosphere. And basically I use the choir men Oz. Make sure you take off the reverb as well. That way, you know, when you have a fill, for example, it's not, you know, playing in the fill. And then also basically make sure the attack and releases right away too, because I'm basically making it act like a synth or something digital. And then processing just some OTT, and then basically taking out some of this area, the frequencies here. And then that's really it for the choir. And then next I have a string here. I think what I did with these strings is I basically just put some reverb on it, and that's really it. And I believe I used the contact library. It might have been the string ensemble, I can't exactly remember. It's probably the string ensemble because I don't think the violas can play at that octave, but it's either the string ensemble, violas, or the violins that I chose. And I probably just put some reverb on it. And then I froze it and converted it to audio just so that, you know, usually when the strings are playing, there's always like a delay in the attack. So again, you know, I took off the reverb into contact as well, just so that I can be more digital again and play right away rather than having a delay and stuff. And that's really it for the strings. And up next we have some voice drone here. Got some OTT on it, decapitator, EQ, and some reverb basically. And this drone I got from one of Nurko's atmosphere packs, either from sample, I think it was atmosphere sample pack 1, I think. And that's really it for this atmosphere, for that voice drone rather. And then we have another atmosphere here. Basically EQ'd out some, you know, things that we probably don't need in the mix. That's really it. And altogether the atmosphere sound like this. And again, this atmosphere layer is more of like a subtle difference, not supposed to be like the biggest difference. But you can definitely, it's more of like a thing that you can kind of feel more than you can hear. But I guess I'll play the saw stack by itself, and then I'll solo the atmospheres in too. Alright, and then next we have a sub. This is from a preset that I got, so I'm not gonna share this since it's someone else's work. Definitely want to respect, you know, the other person's work and stuff, and not just give it away. Then we have some decapitator on here, and then basically EQ. You know, basically just making room for the sub and not other frequencies. And that's really it for the sub. And then for the bass, that's what it sounds like. Yeah, and also this time around I actually changed some things around compared to the last video, so you might see some little differences in the bass as well, but basically, or at least in terms of the processing. But yeah, the first bass that I'm using is a preset from Kashmir called the Angry Bass. Again, I'm not going to reveal this one just to respect Kashmir, but you can find it on Splice and download it. And then I have some Camel Crusher, basically just a British clean preset, some OTT, some decapitator for saturation, and then also just an EQ, basically making room for the sub. And this is what it sounds like by itself. And then the second bass, we have basically just have a serum. I think it's just like one, yeah, the Evol long greased. Yeah, I didn't really do too much with it, honestly. And then effects, we just have distortion. And this is what it sounds like by itself. You can even try adding like Camel Crusher if you feel like it needs more. This particular one I felt like we didn't need it, so I just took it off. And then basically this third bass is situational. Something I learned from Nurko basically is, you know, when you're doing your drops, you know, a way to like kind of make your drop sound more full, or I guess big, is just take a look at what frequencies it needs on this Fasango span. So say for example, like we didn't have this bass yet. This is kind of what it'll look like. So sometimes you'll see like a dip around this area, and that's basically what this bass is doing. As we can see, we even EQ'd it to make it cover that area. And then I guess before I share you the preset, I'll kind of just show you what it kind of does. So yeah, I'll just play it without it and then with it. Alright, and then for this serum, we basically have two oscillators. We're using a monster for this one. Basically just pulled up the position just so we can find the sound that we're looking for. -1 octave, some less on the D tune. That's really it for the oscillator A. Maybe I think we might have changed some of the volume too. And then oscillator B, this is actually a pretty cool sound by itself. With the +7 semitones, I think that makes it play the fifth. But we have some unison, less on the D tune, a little bit less on the noise too, just so that it can kind of level out, blend in with the first oscillator. And we're basically just using a saw wave, but without the EQ, this is what it sounds like. So it sounds pretty cool because it's playing the fifth with it. And then for effects, just some distortion. And yeah, that's really it for that. And then we do have an ARP, but I'm not going to show you that since it's not really finished. But yeah, all right guys, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you found it helpful or if you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't yet. And also please hit the bell notification symbol so you know when my next video goes live. I really want to do this full time, so it'd be greatly appreciated if you could help me out with that. Additionally, please follow me on my social media channels. I post shorter music production tips type of videos on there. So please give me a follow on Instagram, TikTok, and stuff like that. I'll leave all the links in the description below. And please join the Discord server as well. Again, the link will be in the description below. Thanks so much again for watching. Until next time, much love. Peace out.